Hi friends, many of you have seen my video and provided a constructive feedback. So the main points in that feedback are I am taking long gaps in between because of which the duration of video has increased more than half an hour. So today I would try to reduce those long gaps due to which the duration of video will also come down. So today I have picked up the news items from Hindu and Live Mint, and those news items are related to our syllabus spanning across GS1, GS2 and GS3 papers. In GS1, more related to society. In GS2, it is related to international relations, whereas in GS3, those issues are related to MSP, minimum support price, and Indian economy and employment, and finally basics of cyber security. So we will be discussing about all these five topics. Coming to the first topic, this article says that culture plays a key role in designing the lockdown exit strategy. So the reporter has quoted a research report from Europe. So in Europe, the researchers found that Germany can afford a quicker lockdown exit strategy. The reason is not just because of their better health infrastructure facilities, but it is because of their cultural ethos. For example, the arguments extended here is Germans meet less often among themselves than Belgians and Italians. It is because Italy is more family-centered society and they meet their relatives frequently. So government has to take extra measures to keep the Italians in going for those gatherings. Whereas such self-restraint is already available inside the culture, state need not take extra measures. So that is the reason German can afford quicker lockdown exit strategy compared to the Italian and Belgian governments. Okay. At the same time, to drive the point of culture, the reporters also mentioned here that Japan can offer better and quicker exit strategy because the kind they greet, they don't hug and kiss each other as part of greeting. It is prevalent more in western part of the world. So compared to the western part of the world, in eastern part of the world, there can be a better and quicker exit strategy provided the disease levels are same. Okay. In addition to the culture point, they have also discussed about the genes related point. So they say that South Italy is less affected because they have the genes which are resistant to COVID-19 compared to the North Italy, UK and Belgium. Those people don't possess such resistant gene. That is why the infections, that diseases, the COVID-19 cases are more in North Italy, UK and Belgium compared to the South Italy region. So how can you use this in your exam is, there can be a statement in the exam, culture plays a crucial role in curtailing the COVID-19. So substantiate your answer with arguments. There can be such a question, then you can use these examples to drive your point. So now we have entered into GS3 topics. In GS3, first I will be discussing issues related to minimum support price. Yesterday, that is on June 1st, 2020, Cabinet has gathered to take some key decisions. One among the key decisions is to increase the minimum support prices for the Kharif crops. They have increased the minimum support price around 2 to 5% for 14 Kharif crops. So what is the benefit of the minimum support price? Because minimum support price will protect the farmer from the market fluctuations. If there is lack of demand, then the farmer may not get enough price in the market. when the farmer doesn't get enough price in the market, he may be forced to sell his produce at lesser cost than the cost he has invested in producing that crop. As a result, farmer will go into debt, and many Indian farmers have committed suicide earlier. So to protect the farmers, Indian government has a policy of minimum support price. So moreover, in 2018, government has come up with a policy which wanted to ensure that the farmer will get at least 50% more than his investment cost. So because of which the farmer will be getting at least a reasonable amount of surplus, due to which he can go for the next time crop, and also he can fulfill his family needs. As per the Ministry of Agriculture, the returns which the farmer might get because of this minimum support prices, new minimum support prices, it would be at least 50 to 80, but 83% more than his production cost. For example, if a farmer invests 1 lakh rupees in producing a crop, and if he sells his crop at minimum support price, he will get at least 1,50,000 or 1,83,000. So that is what the government is claiming. Why am I emphasizing on this point is there was a committee called National Farmers Commission. It was headed by Mr. M.S. Swaminathan, the man behind India's Green Revolution. So the commission has told the government to take C2 as reference instead of A2 plus FL. I will explain what is C2 and A2 plus FL. So currently the government is saying that the farmer would get 50 to 83% more than the production cost. But this production cost actually involve only input costs. Input cost means seeds, fertilizers, irrigation, etc. So these input costs plus the notional cost of family labor. For example, farmer may use his wife and children in cultivating his land. So if he is not using his family labor, he may have to pay extra amount to the labor. So even that amount is considered in this. So when government is saying production cost, government is saying only input cost plus family labor. Whereas the commission has told, in addition to input costs and family labor, it wanted the government to consider even the rent on land and also interest on the capital assets. But probably the government did not heed to this because of the fiscal responsibility and budget management constraints and other limited resources constraints. So what is fiscal responsibility and budget management is government needs to stick to certain debt to GDP percentage. So government has to maintain such limits. If government doesn't maintain such limits, there is a possibility of investors' confidence coming down. Okay, that we can discuss in another video in detail. Okay, so now since I have discussed more or less about the MSP fully, now there was a mention in the reports that the paddy MSP increase is very lowest in the last 5 years. So this may be of some use in the prelims if they give statement 1 and statement 2. Sometimes they may ask these kind of factual statements. Okay, how can you use this information which we have discussed till now in the exam? So there can be a question: what steps have been taken by the Indian government to achieve the vision of doubling farmers' incomes by 2022? Indian government has the vision that farmers' income should be doubled by 2022. Okay, so you can quote the government's measures of providing MSP, which ensures at least 50% more than the production costs. Okay, you can quote that and say that government is taking necessary steps, but it may not be sufficient. So that you can give as an argument for the next question. Do you think the measures taken by the government are adequate to reform Indian agriculture? There can be n number of other measures also you can quote, but here, since we discussed about MSP, that point also you can include in these points, and you can say that step is necessary, but it is not sufficient. Okay, that brings us to the next topic, that is related to the other decision of the cabinet yesterday. So that is, government has decided to infuse 50,000 crores into MSME sector. So before going to this details, I would like to tell you about the revised definitions of MSME. So when cabinet has taken that equity infusion decision, they have also revised the definitions of definitions matlab, what falls under micro industry category, what falls under small industry category, and medium industry category. Government will revise these things from time to time, maybe once in 5 years or 6 years, something like that. The reason being, they have to consider the inflation also. So the definition of the industries should reflect that inflation also. Otherwise, the costs of the inputs for the industries will increase. If the definitions are not revised, then they may not get the adequate support needed. So that is why the government revises these investment limits from time to time to reflect the inflation. Okay, so you can go through these facts, like for micro industries, the investment limits have been increased to 1 crore, whereas turnover limit is increased to 5 crore. Similarly, for small, 10 crores and 50 crores, or for medium, 50 crores and 250 crores. Okay, so what exactly is equity infusion? Assume that you are starting an industry and I am giving you money. If I am giving you money as a part of debt, not as part of equity, then irrespective of whether you make profit or loss, you are expected to give me back the money which I give it to you. Along with the principal amount, I expect interest also. That is why I lend money to you. So it doesn't matter whether you make profit or loss, you should be returning the money at periodic intervals to me. Whereas if I am not giving you debt, instead if I am investing in your firm with the same money, that means I will become owner to a very small part of the company, maybe 1%, 2% of the shares of the company. And here my returns will depend on whether the company makes profit or loss. Only if the company makes profit, I will get the proportionate returns. If I don't, if the company doesn't make profit, I will not get the proportionate returns. So here the risk is more. That is why when I get profit, I will also get the share in the profit. Whereas when I give it as a debt to you, so I will get only the money and little bit of interest. I will not get the share in the profit. So when government is saying that it does equity infusion, means government becomes investors in these MSMEs, because of which the share value, if these MSMEs go to stock market, their share value will increase. Why the share value will increase? Because the government is a investor in this firm. So even if the MSME may go for loss in a short period, government will step in and take the necessary measures to bring back the industry into profit trajectory. So the other investors will invest in industry in these MSMEs with that confidence. So that is why when government becomes investor in MSME, that will increase the share value of the MSME in the stock market. And not just that factor, even if the MSME makes profit also, that will also increase the share value. So when the MSME is making the enough profit, at that point of time, government will sell off its shares in the share market. People like me and you and some high net worth individuals may invest in those MSMEs. So government will take that money and invest in another MSME, so that it will keep providing impetus to the MSMEs. Okay. So why, when the entire country is reeling under economic and health crisis, government is infusing so much money into the MSME sector alone? It is because MSME sector is the highest employment creator in the country. Around 11 crores of the people are employed in this MSME sector. 11 crores means almost one tenth, little less than 10% of the population are working under MSME sector. And not only that, MSME is contributing to 32% of the GDP and 45% of the manufacturing output, and they also contribute to 48% of the Indian exports. So that is why when government is having limited resources, it will look for the investment destinations where we can create bang for buck areas of interest. What do I mean by bang for buck? Where you can invest less and reap more benefits. So MSME is such kind of sector. But there is also one more reason. MSME sectors, it may appear little contradictory to what I told earlier, but you can reconcile both of them, because the earlier what I told is in the interest of employment. So there you can create more employment. In that way, it is more profitable to invest in MSMEs. But at the same time, MSMEs are known for underemployment. It is not unemployment, they are underemployment. What do I mean by underemployment? If I can produce a 1 lakh worth of goods by using 10 people, but if I am using 15 persons to produce 1 lakh worth of goods, then if instead of 10 people I am employing 15 people, that means the amount of output per labor is less. That means the productivity is less. So in Indian MSME sector is affected with that problem. So 98% of the workforce is with respect to manufacturing is in the MSME sector, 98% of manufacturing workforce. But we are getting like only 62% of output. So you may get doubt that I told you 45% of manufacturing output, but here I am saying 62% of output. But this 62% of output is the figure of 2006 and 7. But this 45% of manufacturing output is little earlier. No, it is, I am sorry, it is very recent, whereas 60% output is the past information. So this data, this particular underemployment data I have taken from the Niti Aayog Action Agenda document. So because of these two reasons, government is infusing such a huge amount into the MSME sector. So we have discussed two important initiatives of the cabinet. One is MSP, the other one is the equity infusion into MSME sector. Okay, so why these initiatives assume importance? These initiatives assume importance because currently we are reeling under economic crisis, so the revival of the demand is very much important. You would have seen in news in various media that farmers are coming out and burning their crops on the roads because of lack of demand for crop. So to prevent such scenarios, government has come up with the MSP, and also we are in need of reviving the demand. So the government measures of increasing MSP will help in that way, revival of the demand, and also revival of demand from the side of farmers. Now farmers will have enough money, they can also buy their day-to-day needs along with investing in the crops. Okay, even in the MSME labor, if they get employment, they will also get salaries, then they can spend more. So in that way demand will be created. Okay, so in addition to this, luckily we have a good news that our meteorology department has predicted that this year monsoon going to be normal. We may receive 1 or 2% of the 50 years average. So that means the Kharif crop will be good. So it is a good news for the economy. So at this time, these measures, like I told you, MSME and the MSP thing, they will help in revival of demand. In addition to what government is planning to take the other measures to address the constraints in supply chain, like establishing the infrastructure and improving the logistics. All these are supply chain, these things will address supply chain constraints. So these two decisions are very important towards the revival of Indian economy and making India progress towards self-reliant India, that is Atmanirbhar Bharat. Okay, this brings us to the final topic in GS3. So there have been a bunch of news last week and today related to the dark web. So some of the details were available in the dark web. For example, some Aadhaar card details and Truecaller data. And today there was a news in Live Mint saying that some people are selling protection equipment and antiviral drugs illegally on the dark web. So in this context, it is pertinent to discuss about the dark web and deep web. So what is exactly this dark web? So dark web is a part of deep web which you can access only through specialized and encrypted software. For example, some of your friends might be using the Tor browser. Tor full form is the onion router. So you can browse dark web only using specialized browsers called Tor browser. See, all the activity on dark web need not be illegal. So some people use Tor browser to keep their browsing history private. They may not be doing something illegal, but they want to keep their data secure, their browsing data. That is why they use Tor browser. So all people who use Tor browser need not be doing something illegal. So when I say dark web is part of deep web, what is exactly deep web? So deep web is a content on the internet which you cannot access through simple Google search. So for example, you will Google docs which are saved in the drive and Google spreadsheets and some of your mail content, we cannot get them by simple Google search, right? So those are called deep web. Then what is surface web? Surface web is what you can access through simple Google search. Those content on the internet is called surface web. So dark web is a subset of deep web which can be accessed only through specialized software. So why it is of concern to us? Why dark web, that those transactions are concerned to us? Because there are many implications. I am dividing them here into two categories. One is economic issues, the other one is social issues. So as part of economic issues, because a country's national security is also dependent on the economic and social factors. So economic factors, if the illegal criminal elements use the financial details of the citizens to blackmail them and ask them for some ransom, then that would bring down the credibility of the Indian government and the economic administration of the government. So it is affecting the national security on economic front. And at the same time, the illegal trade volumes, whatever trade happens illegally, those guys won't pay taxes to the government. So the government will lose tax revenue. So then the government will not be able to provide services at adequate quality. So this is a huge loss to the exchequer. For example, the illegal dark web market, which is quoted in the Live Mint, is the name is Empire Market. They are there for 1 week, $1 million worth of transactions are happening. So that shows that how much money is being lost for the not only for India, across the world. So illegal trade will affect the countries in a very bad manner on economic front. In addition to economic issues, there are some social issues also. For example, in 2007, there were reports that some of the school children in Hyderabad of Telangana state, they used to buy the drugs over dark web. So this has become a big issue. So the children, instead of enjoying their childhood, and when their mental faculties are when they are in developmental stage and they are going to become the future demographic dividend, if they are get addicted to drugs, then it will be a threat to India's economic and social security. So this is also another threat related to dark web. At the same time, right to privacy shall be undermined. For example, you can see in that news report, lot of Aadhaar related data has been kept in the dark web. So, okay, we have discussed the challenges. We have discussed the consequences of dark web. So, what can be done to overcome those cyber security and those dark web related challenges? What is the way forward? Is India has a national cyber security policy which was brought by the UPA government in 2013. We have to strengthen it. There are many lacunas in that policy as per the cyber security experts. The present government is taking steps to reform and fill those gaps, but they are still not sufficient. For example, we are yet to build the capacity of the institutions such as CERTIN, Emergency Response Institution. So we have to improve the strengthening. And also in India, the cyber security professional strength is abysmally low. It is less than 1,000. When the policy was being formulated in 2013, the strength was less than 500. With such a less adequate manpower in cyber security, we cannot handle the challenges. At the same time, we have to invest more funds on R&D. India's R&D investment, not just on cyber security, but entirely Indian government's R&D investment is less than 1% of GDP. So that is very less compared to our counterparts like China, US and South Korea. This is very less. So we are spending less than 1% of GDP, which is not acceptable. Okay, then we are also in need to promote the cyber security awareness. For example, there were some reports that TikTok is stealing some information, but these kind of charges should be verified and be communicated to the citizens by the government. So otherwise it may lead to the future threats. So whether it is correct or not, government should step in and communicate to the citizens. Okay. At the same time, we can take the help of the other friendly nations who have handled these dark web related threats. For example, USA could cut the illegal dark web based market named Silk Route. Don't confuse, this Silk Route has nothing to do with China's Silk Route. So the name is just Silk Route here. They have curbed the Silk Route market, dark web market in 2013. So we can take their help in handling dark web related threats. So we have discussed the dark web and deep web. So any question comes on Indian cyber security, you can bring these points and you can tell what is the current status of Indian cyber security and what are the measures that can be taken. Okay, that brings us to the final topic for today in international relations, that is India and China, how they are approaching towards Africa in this pandemic scenario. So the main proposition of this article is the both authors told that India is following health diplomacy, whereas China is following donation diplomacy. These are the terms coined by those authors. So the reason behind coining those terms is they have propounded these arguments. These arguments, I have divided them into two categories. One is content of the cooperation and intent of the cooperation. These terms are coined by me, not by the authors. The intent behind coining these terms is to make it easier for you to organize the information which you study. So what do I mean by content is what kind of cooperation we are extending it to the Africa. So China is extending cooperation by supplying the protection equipment and testing kits, but most of their cooperation is in the form of cash. So that is why it is called donation diplomacy by the authors. Whereas India is helping the Africa by supplying the medicine and also importing their health workforce with the necessary skills. We are conducting some webinars directly with them, and we are also sharing some best practices, probably to some of them are related to providing nutritional support, for which we have taken some things from our Ayurveda, so to boost immunity in this global pandemic scenario. So these things may help the African country, so we are addressing in that manner. So the if you see the content, the reason for extending such kind of cooperation is the intent. So India wants to go for India gives emphasis more on people to people contacts, not just on the state level, not just on the prime minister relations or the ministry level relations. We want people to people contacts to be strengthened, which is good in the long term, because when the people to people relations are strengthened, even the next generation African leaders who are the present day children, so they will also have goodwill towards the India. So this is good in long term, establishing people to people contacts and building their capacities to find their potential. So it is very good. So that is why India following this approach. Whereas China, because China is having lot of money, their foreign reserves are very huge compared to India. That is why they are focusing on more on the wealth creation, and their approach is more on maintaining leader to leader contacts, not so much as people to people contacts the way India is doing. So how to use this whatever I have discussed till now in the exam. So there may be a question tomorrow, which approach is better. They may ask you a question, what is the policy of India and China towards Africa? What approach is better, do you think? Substantiate with arguments. This may be asked in GS2 paper, or this may be asked in interview also. So here it is my stand, you can take any stand. It is my stand that India's approach is better, because lending hand is better than giving a dole. What do I mean by this is, the help should be empowering them rather than making them perpetually dependent on you. So India's approach is more empowering. That is why I endorse India's approach, and also it helps Africa to liberate their potentials, to discover their potentials with the help of India. Whereas China's help is more like, in fact, China's policy towards the less developed nations or the currently developing nations is called debt diplomacy, because they are heavily investing their money in the infrastructure of those regions and the resources extraction, and because of which those countries will be in debt, will be indebted to the China. So that will constrain the future of those nations. That is what some experts feel. So that is why the policy followed by China is called debt diplomacy by some of the international relations experts. So based on those experts' views, I have formed my opinion. So I can substantiate my view using these 3 points. And a cursory reference, there was a essay question in 2015, lending hand is better than giving dole. So when you are writing a essay to substantiate your stand, you can quote these kind of examples. So within that article, there was a specific mention about the contribution of Indian diaspora in establishing good relations with Africa. So the Indian community who are living in East African countries are helping in spreading the awareness, and prominent Indian businessmen and companies which are in Nigeria and Kenya, they are also donating their money to the National Emergency Response Funds. And there are country-specific chapters of Gurudwaras or temples in those particular African countries. They are feeding the thousands of families by setting up community kitchens, of course, by taking care of enough social distancing measures. And they have also established helplines for senior citizens and distributing disinfectants and sanitizers. So that is how Indian diaspora is helping in establishing bilateral relations. So if there is a question in the exam, you can quote these kind of examples. So now the next subtopic in the same article is why Africa is important to China. So we have already told that they are investing heavily in those countries for resource extraction, and of course businessmen look for the profit. So Africa is a developing region. They may see more market potential there. So that is how China's business community will get benefited. But immediately the interest to China is shift the focus away from the allegations from all across the world that the China has is the main reason for the spread of this virus. So to generate more goodwill and to change that narrative, to make a new image makeover, they are trying to do these kind of things. That is their immediate interest. And examples, okay, that is immediate interest. But till now, how did Africa support China? So just by writing normal points may not give you extra marks in the exam. You have to substantiate your points using examples. That is why you have to remember these kind of examples. So African countries have helped the Chinese in terms of securing Chinese candidates the seat in global institutions such as Food and Agriculture Organization, the head of FAO, and then in WHO membership and other leadership positions in World Health Organization. To go to those positions, now some of the eminent Chinese people are occupying these positions. That is because of the support extended by the African countries. Then why Africa is important to India? So there are many reasons. I am quoting a few of them here. Because India eyes for a permanent seat in UN Security Council, Africa support is essential for India, and India and Africa together amounts to 1/3 of the global population. So when we are together, our opinion counts. When the other 2/3 of population are divided on their stand, but when 1/3 of population is has conviction on their stand, then it may change the global policy things. So we have to be together. We matter. Okay, that is why Africa is important to India, and also secure to thwart China's aggressive tendencies in Indian Ocean region, and also to curb the security threats by the pirates. So we need the support of the some of the nations in the Indian Ocean region, like Seychelles, Mauritius, and Comoros, and Madagascar. So we have a strategy called Sagar, security and growth for all in the region. So that is called Mission Sagar. As part of Mission Sagar, we are extending cooperation to the African countries, and also as Indian people are living in African countries, their security is of great interest to India. So that is why also Africa is important to India. And as I earlier told, the same thing holds for India also. Indian business community can get benefited by investing in African markets, of course, the way Africa want it to be. So this is the main points of discussion. Hope you like the discussion. Thank you.